All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. I'm Jonathan Crow, Director of Community here at NinjaOne, and I have with me the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff Hunter, our field CTO. How you doing, Jeff?
I am doing great. It's another great Monday here at NinjaOne, Jonathan. How are you?
I am doing well as well. It is another fine, sunny Monday here, and we're here to talk about a case of the Mondays, a case of way too many Mondays, right? We're here to talk about IT misery. It's our favorite topic lately. I guess more to the point, we're here to talk about how to overcome IT misery. Thanks everybody for taking time to join us here on your Monday. We're going to give you some good tips on how to overcome your the tasks that are the things that make you not so eager to get out of bed and jump into work. Last month, we covered how to automate some of the most common, kind of boring, mundane, time consuming tasks. Jeff went through a bunch of those. If you missed that, you can check it out on YouTube. And this month, we're sticking with this topic, but we're changing it up a little bit. We're going to talk about real time monitoring and alerting, how to be more proactive. And so, Jeff, I know this is something that comes up all the time, really since the first days of NinjaOne. This is kind of like bread and butter NinjaOne's value proposition, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can speak from firsthand experience to not having a tool that gives you any visibility or minimal amount of visibility. And so, one of my least favorite things, and I think it's very common in the IT industry, is when somebody goes, "Oh, I've been meaning to tell you about this, and this has been actually a huge problem for months, but actually I forgot about it until it crashed or something happened, and now it's a P1, an emergency." Information that would have been very valuable to me yesterday or at any point in the past. And so I think our goal here is to try and avoid that, to try and be proactive with knowing when issues are going to be causing problems, when they're going to have this drastic impact to your customer base or to your end users, and then how you're able to remediate that. How are you able to take care of some issues before they become really impactful and become bigger problems? Kind of try to take care of those issues before they really grow and become bigger problems.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to see the smoke before it becomes the fire, right? Because everyone's
Some
got way too
cases,
many
literally.
fires. Yeah, in some cases, literally. Yes, absolutely. You've been listening to the IT Horrors podcast that we have. Um, and great to see everybody coming in, saying where they're from. Mike, you're from Boston. I'm up in Maine, not too far away from you. We got Canada, Tennessee. It's where I was born. Oh man, all sorts of awesome places. The Netherlands. This is great. Well, thank you again, everybody. Before we dive in, I just wanted to call out a couple of different things. The first, I want to call out, if you haven't already, here's another way you can overcome IT misery and drudgery. Take a minute to play our new game. Did you know that NinjaOne is also a video game publisher? On April 1st, we announced this, and some people thought it was a joke, but we actually launched IT Quest, which is a epic retro RPG in the style of the early Final Fantasies and such. And you can actually check it out. It's free to play. I'm going to drop a link here. We've had a lot of people diving in. Some people spending a lot of time playing this and getting down the completion. We have a leaderboard and everything. Yeah, we've got a few people who may already be here in the chat watching this, but got their completion time below 30 minutes, which is insane. But this game is super cool. We put a lot of time and effort into it. The folks that were really responsible for creating this, they did a great job. It's going to be available on Steam, Google Play, and the App Store, I believe, later this week, kind of around May the 4th. Okay, so with that, one other thing to note, we are giving away a prize to a lucky attendee here. So stay tuned for that. At the end of it, we'll be announcing the winner. It's a relaxation package, basically. And we can give you some more details on that as we go on, as we come back around at the end of this webinar. And then we'll also stick around. We'll give you a highlight of some of the upcoming events we have. We're going to be talking more about IT misery later on next month. This is an ongoing series, and we've got some other cool events coming up too. Okay, so with all that said, let's dive into today. So you all, I see a lot of familiar names here. You probably know me and Jeff already. Jeff has been at NinjaOne forever. He is the face, the voice of so many webinars. I've been around NinjaOne not so long, or not a short amount of time myself. And we clearly were joking around before. Jeff's going to be doing a May the 4th themed cocktail, a mixology course. It's virtual. Maybe we have a link that we can share for people to register if they still can for that. We were saying, man, it's a tough gig we got, Jeff.
Really is, hosting events like Cocktails of the Galaxy. You wonder who else could have done this, and I'm just glad it's me.
All right, so let's. I firmly agree with that. Okay, so let's kick things off. We're interested to hear from you guys. What issues do you wish that you could know about in advance when it comes to your day to day, to some of these IT issues that you're dealing with? And we're going to launch this as a poll.
And this should be a free write, so go ahead and add in whatever is something that you just wish happens somewhat consistently, and you wish you had a little bit more advance notice when that was happening, rather than it becoming something that you only find out about when it impacts the end user and then becomes incredibly disruptive.
Yeah, thank you everybody for. I see the answers starting to come in now. We'll give you a little time to answer those in because they're open form and everything, and then we'll share some of those results in just a minute. So while we're doing that, let's go on and talk about different ways to respond, Jeff. So basically, when there's a big difference between having to respond to something that's an urgent issue now and respond to things that okay, great, you've got the warning sign ahead of time. And so when you were thinking about putting this through together, you came up with these three categories of different ways to kind of set up some monitoring and responding to potential issues. You want to talk through these three groups?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go through a demonstration and talk about all these examples and more, but I broke them down into three basic categories. One might be simple alerting and remediation. And so this is pretty easy. You get a problem, you solve a problem. Something that you're able to automate end to end, you identify that there's been some sort of problem. You then run an automation or a series of automations to try and remediate whatever the issue happens to be. And then hopefully that automation works and NinjaOne recognizes that that alert status is no longer valid. And then we reset the alert. You can also reset the corresponding ticket that got generated with that alert. And so we'll go over a couple basic examples of what that looks like. And I would classify this as the low-hanging fruit. This is not, going to be processes that are super complex, but I'm sure everyone has a long, long list of issues where you can just take care of it with a simple script or two scripts. And you really wish that a human being didn't have to be actively engaged in the process of receiving a ticket, going to the device, trying to figure out what the if the issue is still in effect, and then going and responding to it in a manual way. We really like to automate that process. Uh, Now, then we're going to go into some more complex automations, and these are a little bit more varied. These might be partial responses to issues. So you're not going to be able to completely automate a response to an issue end to end every single time. Some of the times, you're only going to be able to maybe partially accelerate the process or be a cog in the wheel of responding and remediating whatever the root cause of the issue is. And so we'll talk a little bit about some various options for that, basically more complex options for remediation and how you can control those in NinjaOne. And then at the very end, we'll talk about how we can use automation and responses to common issues to be able to solve the problem faster. And so these are situations where a human being really should be involved. They should be engaged in the actual issue. But maybe there's tasks they need to complete as a part of the troubleshooting response that you can automate. And so a lot of this revolves around finding out information on the device and then surfacing it to the technician so that they're able to handle the issue more quickly and more efficiently. And so we'll go over a couple different examples, including a tree size custom field script, which will show you where you have large files located, so it's more easy to address things like low disk space issues. We'll also talk about surfacing relevant information to have it more easily visible in Ninja. So again, when a technician goes to troubleshoot, they have that information at their fingertips. They're not having to go through a checklist or a series of steps to retrieve that information so that they can then get started. We'd like them to have the information so that they can get started solving the issue as quickly as possible.
That's great, Jeff. So I'm hearing is a lot of this is not only being able to proactively react to telltale signs, nip things in the bud. It's also about making sure that you have all the information that you need at your fingertips. It's really about visibility and improving that and having that be more immediate. Okay, so let's speaking of visibility, let's share some of the results of our poll here. And so let's see here, view details. I don't know if this is going to actually show for everybody. I might have to stop and share my other screen. I'll just read out a few of these that I'm seeing that are common. And thanks everybody for taking part in this poll. So, what issues do you wish you knew about in advance, right? And so we've got from R. Williams says Windows domain passwords about to expire. We have I wish I knew in advance that all MS pack updates break things, and I do now. Speaking of, we actually have a cool feature that if you're a Ninja user and you haven't checked this out yet, and sorry if everybody's heard me talk about this, but we do actually have we're using AI in a cool way where it's going out and it's measuring sentiment around patches. It's seeing like it's monitoring certain channels and you can see all the sources. Is this patch or this Windows update breaking things? Is it breaking things in a particular way? Are there documented solutions and workarounds? And it's giving you all that information directly, and so you can decide whether you want to hold on that patch or whether you want to go ahead. Or if you are having issues, it can help you troubleshoot. Okay, so what else do we got? Systems offline in certain locations. When time settings on a PC start to drift, firmware updates that break stuff. Oh man, we've got let's see. Oh yeah, new hires, printer errors. Of course, I mean you got to everyone drink when someone says printer. Hey, the user's last day was a week ago. A lot of this is communication, right? Patching CPU problems, printers offline. Yeah, the list goes on. I'll keep reading through these, Jeff, as you start sharing. And if there's some ones that are particularly interesting, maybe I'll jump up and interrupt you. And also, while I'm talking about that, I see that folks are already using the Q&A, which is awesome. Please do that. Use the chat, of course, and we'll keep an eye on that. But the Q&A is really where we'll be able to make sure if you have a question, we'll be able to answer that. Nathan, I see that you're asking about what are the top items for monitoring on a workstation. I'm going to share some resources with you that'll help. And I think Jeff's going to cover some great stuff too. All right, with Jeff, with that, sorry, Jeff. I'll let you take it away. I think I've stopped sharing my screen, so it should be over to you.
I did. I took over. I stole your screen
Good.
share. And hopefully everybody can see my screen here. Yep, looks good. I did, before we jump into the meat of it, I did see a couple people ask about the patch intelligence AI feature, so I did want to show how to enable that since everybody should have access to just flip this on in their environment today. So first of all, go to the gear icon on the left-hand side. That's administration if you're in the expanded view like I am right now. And then when
Oh,
I
and
click
Jeff,
on it,
sorry, I think I don't know if I'm not able to see your screen, so maybe. Oh, there we go. Cool, got it.
okay. All right. Hopefully everybody's saying this. Please yell at me in the chat if you can. All right. Nathan can. Awesome. So we go to apps right here. You will see that we have a NinjaOne AI feature. So this should be visible as a tile on your dashboard, just like it is for me. And then all you need to do is enable this and then make sure that you have the patch intelligence AI feature toggled on. And so at this point, once you do that, we can go into the dashboard and look at our pending patches, and you'll see this KB analysis column. And so this is where you'll see is this a stable release right here. This appears stable. We don't have any expected issues with this particular KB. Or down here, we can see that there are known issues with this CU for Windows Server. And then you can click on that, and then you'll get a summary here of the issues that are being reported by this patch. And so right here, issues with Citrix recording agent. There could be an issue with the application of the update. There could be an error message. There could be problems affecting anybody using Citrix. So if you're a Citrix shop, this would indicate that you probably might want to hold off on this KB or at least test it because it could certainly cause some potential issues in your environment. This is all public data. So this is NinjaOne scraping data from public websites like Bleeping Computer, and then giving you this summary right here so that you have that insight. In our next big release, the 9.0 release, which will come out in June, that is going to have the ability to have this affect your approvals as well. And so if you are automatically approving patches, maybe on a time-based delay to where they get released after 2 weeks, what you can do is actually have the AI feature manage that approval. And so if it was something was automatically approved, but then later turns out to have issues like this, in the 9.0 release, you'll be able to set policy settings that will, so let's say, put the patch back into a pending state, a manual state of approval, or reject it out of hand. And so that's going to be our 9.0 release. One of the many, many features in that release. It's going to take this AI functionality that we have today and then essentially operationalize it so that you have a better way to have automated notification or automated management of your Windows patches if there are going to be potential issues. So that'll be I think, a very cool feature.
Absolutely. And Jeff, sorry, just to go through really quickly one more time. Some folks are having trouble seeing or not seeing it. This should be available to everybody now. But I think that there's if you well, it says early access for the AI there, but my understanding is anyone can enable this particular feature.
That is my understanding as well. At this point, we're in the post 8.1 release. My understanding is that this should be globally available for everyone. So if you're not seeing the NinjaOne AI tile right here, do check in the add application section. I don't believe it should be there. It should be visible on the main application exchange page. If you are not seeing that, please reach out to your account manager or open a support ticket so that we can figure out what's going on there. But yeah, certainly everybody should have access to this and should be able to enable it self-service without talking to anybody. But if you're not seeing that, please let us know.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
With that, we can go ahead and get into the heart of today's webinar, which again is on the value of proactive monitoring. And I want to talk a little bit about how monitoring in Ninja works. Just kind of a quick overview for anybody who's not really familiar with Ninja, even though I see a lot of familiar names in the chat. For starters, we're seeing the main NinjaOne dashboard here. You would bring in devices by deploying the NinjaOne agent, which you can do in the top right here. You can see we can add in a computer. So this would be a Windows, Mac OS, or supported Linux distribution. And we just generate our installer here, and we're able to deploy the agent. And when the agent is installed, it connects to the NinjaOne Cloud instance that we see here, and it needs to receive a policy. And so the policy is the engine that makes Ninja go. All of your important settings are contained inside of policies. And just for a little bit of an example, on the left-hand side, you can see all these various policy settings. So our patching settings. When are we patching? What patches get automatically installed? Which patches are on a time delay, like we see right here. And then ultimately, right below this approval section here, this is where the patch intelligence AI control for approvals will live, where you can have it automatically approve or automatically reject patches based on sentiment. We would also control things like antivirus deployment here. So if you're using CrowdStrike or SentinelOne or WebRoot or Bitdefender Gravity Zone, you can integrate that in here. And then it's a simple drop-down selection so that your EDR tool gets deployed as soon as it joins NinjaOne and has that agent installed. Got our software patching settings, our backup settings here, our warranty tracking. When do we want to be notified about a potential warranty expiration within 90 days? Do we want to be bothered more frequently than just once so it doesn't get missed? But at the very top here, we have two options that are going to be our primary focus for today. And this is conditional monitoring and alerting. And so we have two different types of conditions. I'll start with the first ones, which are just conditions. And these are single monitor or single metric monitors. So you're only monitoring one specific bit of criteria, and then you're raising an alert if that triggers. So a very basic example here, I think this is the example that we teach everybody at Ninja when they're first getting started. I know it was when I was training sales engineers. Hey, we've got a critical service. That service is in a down state. We need to have it in an operational state, an up state, so that we don't have any disruption to the end user and everything continues to work effectively. And you can apply this methodology to any service, but we use the print spooler because it's a very basic generic example. And so here you can see that we're monitoring for the spooler, and then it has to be in a down state. When you use these settings like this, the service has to be installed. If the service is not there, that's not going to trigger the alert. The service has to be present, and then it has to be in a non-running state for this alert to trigger. Now, if you wanted to trigger based off of the absence of the service, hey, let's go down to doesn't exist. And so if the print spooler just wasn't there, period, that would then trigger this alert. So we'll go back into the down state here. I want to monitor for this being down. I'm going to give myself a bit of a delay here, 3 minutes. So the device actually has to be online for at least 3 minutes before this is going to start triggering. And that just saves me from a bunch of false positives because the device maybe hadn't started the service when it initially booted up because there were other services that were starting ahead of it. And this can sometimes happen with like hypervisors and things that have a lot of memory usage on boot up to start everything. And so this just prevents those false positives from occurring. Now, some other methods for removing false positives would be ignoring if the service is disabled. So if the service is disabled, do I want that to trigger my alert or not? We want to go ahead and trigger if this service is in a manual state. Some services are in a manual state and only run when called. And obviously, that means it's in a down state for a prolonged amount of time. And so that could also cause some false positives. And then I really like this option here at the very bottom. This is trigger again if the condition is still true after reset. This is the method for you to prevent when you fat finger something, which I do all the time. I misclick things all the time, and then I go, "Oh, what was that? Where do I go and find that?" So what this does is when you reset an alert, or an alert gets automatically reset, if the root cause of the condition is still in effect, the alert will then retrigger. And so in this case, let's say I reset the alert for the spooler being in a down state, but the spooler is still down, it's going to go ahead and, like a whack-a-mole, it's going to pop back up. It's going to say, no, I'm still a problem. You need to come and, hammer down that crooked nail so that we can get the issue fixed. So that's step one. That's the identification of the issue. Step two is then the response to the problem. And so this would be we want to start the service back up. And I can use a script that we offer natively in every single Ninja environment. We can see here start or stop a Windows service, and then this will actually auto-populate with the services that I have installed on all my devices that have Ninja in this environment. And so I can then type in print, and I'll find the print spooler right here. I could go ahead and stop this if I wanted to, but obviously we're monitoring for it being in a down state, so it makes sense to go ahead and start it. And so there we have a two-step process. We have an identification that we have some sort of problem, and then we have an automation trying to resolve the root cause of that problem, which would be starting the service back up. The key step here, the key third step, is did that work or not? Did it do what we expected it to do? And that is determined by the when no longer met option right here. When we have that box checked, the Ninja agent is taking a more active look at the root cause of the condition. And so when the condition is no longer valid, i.e. the spooler is not in a down state, we consider that to be no longer met and we reset the alert that was generated. And that keeps your dashboard clear so your technicians are not chasing open-ended issues that go nowhere because they've already been fixed. And this can apply to your tickets as well. If you're using an integrated PSA like ConnectWise or Autotask, or if you're using an integrated ITSM tool like ServiceNow or Zendesk, or you're using NinjaOne ticketing, you have the option to create rules that determine what happens when the alert is reset in Ninja. Do you want to have a corresponding impact on that inside of Zendesk or ServiceNow or ConnectWise Manage or Autotask or NinjaOne ticketing? And so in this case, we could have a create with closed loop. And so this means that when we reset this condition, that's going to go into the corresponding ticket in NinjaOne ticketing. And in our case, it's going to move it into a resolved state. It's going to say, hey, this is taken care of. We reset the alert. We're resetting the corresponding ticket. Now, I'll point out here that that may not be appropriate with every single alert. I think of something like a server being offline. I don't think I would use the when no longer met option. I think I'd prefer to have a human being look at that, be engaged in that particular problem, rather than relying on, okay, server went offline, but then it came back online, everything's good. No, I need to dig a little deeper than that. I can't help myself. I have to go and take a closer look there and find out why did that server go offline. I can't just rely on the fact that it's back online now. I want to know more about that root cause, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's go ahead and talk about a couple other pretty basic examples. And you can see here, I've got a pretty long list of conditions. I want to talk about some device configuration conditions. So right here, we can see we've got our antivirus is not in a healthy state. It could be missing, it could be disabled, it could be outdated because the definitions are not up to date. And then we can go ahead and add time to the equation here so we don't get false positives when the device first joins NinjaOne. We have a day or so for the AV to get deployed and get installed, and then we need to alert and say, hey, this device is not protected, or there's other issues that we need to look at here, like the definitions not being up to date. Another one might be for BitLocker status. And so if you're a BitLocker shop and you want to ensure that BitLocker is enabled, we can monitor for that being in either a disabled state or an unlocked state, depending on what you're looking to monitor. You may be in a situation where you want to monitor for both, and therefore you could create two conditions, one to monitor for BitLocker being disabled, and then one to monitor for BitLocker simply being unlocked for a certain period of time. And so here we can say if BitLocker's been disabled for 10 minutes, maybe we want to exclude any removable disks. We don't want any false positives. There could be other volumes on the device that we want to exclude, and so we can add in the volume labels here. I'll point out that you can do this on a per device basis as well. So if you don't have standardized volume labels, that's not a problem. You can do this on a per device level. Yes, Michael, this recording will be sent out probably sometime tomorrow. There will be a link to some resources on a lot of the things that I'm talking about here today in the YouTube description. So once that email gets sent out tomorrow, you'll get a link to YouTube, and then in the YouTube description, you'll have basically everything I'm talking about here today, and a link to my GitHub and all the scripts that I'm referencing. So yes, it is being recorded, and we will have a little primer compendium that you can refer to after the webinar is over. Now here, if BitLocker was in an off state, we could go ahead and run an automation to enable it. I'll say for me, I don't necessarily want to automate here. I would probably automate as a task where the BitLocker enablement is happening on a standardized time frame, point in time that I control, versus this, which if BitLocker is detected to be in an off state, it could enable it at any point in time, and that could cause some disruption there. So you do want to evaluate what the encryption process and how that's going to impact your end users before doing this sort of always on automatic remediation. It may be better for you to do a scheduled point in time enablement of BitLocker. That may just be a more streamlined and less intrusive workflow for both you and your end users. Yes, Alex, you can stop frantically taking notes. I apologize. I should have said that at the very beginning. Now let's look at another example here, our really last basic example of device configuration and how we can modify this, which is using a template library script to look at the firewall status, the Windows firewall status. So if I go into a different environment here, I can show you the template library. This is under administration and then library and then automation. And then there's going to be a separate tab here for the template library, which contains 268 scripts that are created by NinjaOne engineers who were on staff working every day to add new scripts and maintain the existing ones. And this is designed to solve common scenarios, problems in the IT industry. And so in this case, I can use my audit firewall status right here. I could use the exact same thing for Mac OS as well, but I'll stick with Windows for the time being. And then right here, you can see this just provides an output of are my firewalls enabled or are they disabled? We've got some script variables over here that make it very easy for us to provide input to the script without having to be a coder or use PowerShell directly. This can be a no-code experience for you, essentially. And so we can go ahead and import that if I hadn't already done that. And you can see here that I'm running this as a script result condition. Script result condition is exactly what it sounds like. You can take any script and then convert that into a condition that would then alert you whenever you have some sort of alert status. And so this means that you can monitor effectively anything that you can with something like Batch, PowerShell, or Shell script. And so that is obviously quite a few things. You have a very broad brush that you can paint with here to determine what you want to monitor and alert on. And so in our particular case here, we're running a check for an audit of the firewall status every 10 minutes. And then when the result code here is equal to 1, that indicates that we need to raise an alert. The firewall is not configured in the manner that we would expect. Now, I do have an option here to monitor for text string output. So if there was a corresponding text string to go with the result code or the exit code that I needed to alert off of, I could add that in here. However, in my case, I don't want to do that. I'm using strictly the exit code, and so I'm using the does not contain. So I'm essentially disregarding any text string output here. I want to operate solely based off of exit codes. And then down here, I have the script error notification. If the result code is equal to 2, that indicates some sort of underlying problem with the script itself to where it was not able to uh, even begin the process of auditing the firewall status. So it's the underlying mechanics of the script that are broken. It's not really an alert itself, if that makes sense. So you have both options there. And of course, that would raise the alert. We could create a ticket off of that, but we can also use another firewall script, if I could type. And this is another one that is in our template library. So if I go back to the template library and look for firewall, you'll see that in addition to the auditing of the firewall, we can also enable or disable the Windows firewall down here. And so if I import that script, it would look a little something like this right here. You'll see that I'll have an enable or disable option, and then I can also block all inbound connections if I wanted to. Last thing we'll talk about for more of our basic examples of proactive monitoring is on the topic of patching. So if we go down a little bit here, you'll see we've got a couple of patching related conditions. One of them is we have a very important patch available, the CVSS score that indicates the vulnerabilities that are remediated by the patch. So what gets fixed when that is above 9.0 or greater for 2 days, we want an alert. We want to know about it. And this is because it could be an out of band patch that causes, well, could solve quite a few issues or security concerns. And so we want to know when that patch is available. We could even include rejected patches. And this is, again, another fat finger thing here that will prevent you from missing a high CVSS score patch if somebody does accidentally reject it. Now, right here, we have our indication that, hey, patch is available. And so what we can do in response to this is actually go ahead and run patching. And so we can use a native automations in NinjaOne to run a patch application cycle that we see right here, this OS patch apply. And so right here, we have the identification that there's a patch available. Then we have the pushing of patches. So any approved patches will then be pushed to the device when we run right here. So this is a great way to ensure that if you have a need to push 0-day patches out as quickly as possible, this is an excellent way for your device to start patching itself whenever there's that high CVSS score patch available. I see a question here, will that reboot? It will reboot based off of your settings right here. So if you want to reboot, actually, the follow-up question here was, will it follow policy? It follows the policy. So essentially, all you're doing when we go in here and we look and add in an OS patch apply right here, what we're doing here is we're triggering the patch cycle to run as defined within policies. So all of your policy settings, those are still in effect. This is the equivalent of if you were to manually run patching on a device. It's the exact same thing. We're still following all of your policy settings. Very, very similar type deal here. Device has not patched, installed an operating system patch in a certain time frame, in this case, 30 days. I can also go ahead and use this to monitor only the Ninja update engine. This is something that I generally recommend because Windows Defender self-updates. And so those self-updates can pollute the concept of other non-Defender patches being installed. So my preference is to check this box right here whenever Ninja has not installed a patch in 30 days. That doesn't, the device still may be installing patches locally if somebody is doing that, but I like this option because it lets me know whenever Ninja isn't necessarily being the driver of installing patches on devices. But whenever we do have the situation where it's been 30 days where a patch hasn't been installed, exact same situation. Let's go ahead and run that OS patch apply. Let's get this device looking for patches, installing patches, being up to date with all of the latest updates from Microsoft. And I will note here that because I'm in a Windows policy, I am seeing these OS patch apply and these OS patch scan only for Windows devices, but you have these available for Mac OS. You have these available for Linux as well. Um, you would have these automations across all three supported operating systems for the NinjaOne agent. And then lastly here, we have kind of a similar concept, which is I want to check if the Windows Update service is disabled. This is one of those things that goes back to my previous experience. There was an acquisition at a previous company that I worked for, and I walked into that building and there was not a single genuine copy of Windows in the entire place. None of the Windows installations were valid. And to prevent any annoying issues with Windows updates, they disabled the Windows Update service. So this is the ghost of Christmas past coming back to haunt me. I think anytime I ever manage any devices, I'm always going to have something in there that checks to see if the Windows Update service is disabled. And then in this particular case, on the right-hand side here, we're running another template library script, which is actually, this one is not a template library script, but I am going to add in a template library script, which is the Windows Update Diagnostic. And what this does is this looks at Windows Update. It confirms that it's operating the way you would expect. And one of those expectations is that the service has to be enabled. And so this will take care of that for you. You can also optionally output the results of this into a custom field if you would like. So this is a great way to make sure that Windows Update is just on and the underlying expectations are that it should work properly as expected. See a question here from Andy. Is there a script in the repository that will leverage the native Windows update to upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11, but allow the end user to choose when the upgrade kicks off? So there is a script. If we go in here, and this is jumping a little ahead, but if we go in here, you'll see that there is an upgrade, actually several upgrades scripts here. Right here, you can see updating Windows 10 to Windows 11. Now, the issue here is that I don't believe that this is going to do what you want, Andy, which is allow the end user to determine when that is going to kick off. You could definitely do that with some creative scripting here. So if we go into, like I said, I'm jumping ahead here in my examples, so bear with me. If we go in here into the compound conditions, you'll see here we're leveraging a compound condition to essentially determine when we want to push this. We're using this script here, the check NinjaOne time. And what this does is it allows me to specify a window of when this is going to kick off. So this doesn't directly solve your problem of wanting the end user to provide the input, but what you can do here is you can give them, or you can set essentially a safe window for when this can kick off. And then I see Dylan saying something that I was about to say as well, which is that you can put this in the sys tray as well, so they get to initiate when it happens. Obviously, you would want to have a message as a part of that to say, hey, your device could reboot at any time, so you need to be aware of that before you proceed. But yeah, I think this is, if you're looking to manage the process on your own and have this scheduled overnight, this is probably a good way to manage that. With that, let's go ahead and talk about some other examples, some more complex examples of how we can address issues using NinjaOne. So if we go up here, make sure I didn't miss this. Okay. So this is an issue that comes from Stephen Murphy, who is very active in our NinjaOne Discord and in our community. He was a NinjaOne user prior to coming to work at Ninja as a product manager, where he now helps make our endpoint management the best class in the world. And his issue that he struggled with all the time was that there were two Wi-Fi networks for a client that his MSP was managing. And one of them was the production network that laptop should be connected to, and then one was a guest Wi-Fi network. And he had a recurring issue where people were consistently connecting to the guest Wi-Fi and then saying, "Hey, the file server isn't accessible to me. I can't get into the files that I need." And obviously, that was because they were connected to the wrong network. And after having to deal with this for so many times, what Steven ended up doing is he created a script that would evaluate the current connected Wi-Fi network on the device. What was the SSID that the device was currently connected to? And then it compared that against a list of blacklisted SSIDs that you can store in an organization custom field or in a NinjaOne documentation article. And so what that meant is they were able to say, hey, well, you're connected to guest Wi-Fi. If we look inside Ninja, guest Wi-Fi is blacklisted. You're not allowed to be connected to that. And so in response to this issue, we are then going to go ahead and delete the guest Wi-Fi SSID profile from the device so that the device is no longer connected to it. Now, in conjunction with this, you could also go ahead and provide a little messaging to the end user. You can say, hey, instead of rebooting the device, we can say you are connected to the wrong device. And you could probably be a little nicer than that, but you could go ahead and message them and say, hey, you need to be connected to X Wi-Fi network if you want things to work the way that you expect them to. So this is a very this is a great example of how you can use NinjaOne to design a response to a particular issue that you are having. This is not a native feature. This is not something that was out of the box. But when you look at the recurring issues that you deal with and you go, hey, this is what's costing me time, this is what's costing me money, these are the issues that I'm constantly having to deal with. This is a great way to use the tools at your disposal and come up with a solution. Uh, I see some people saying they need this setup. I've talked about this on other webinars in the past, but again, you will get a link to the recording in that recording description. It'll be on YouTube. So in the YouTube description, there will be a link to everything I'm talking about here, including links to scripts and everything that I'm setting up. So you will have a complete primer when this gets emailed out tomorrow. And another variation of this example would be looking for unauthorized local administrators. This is something I've talked about in the past as well, but there is a script to report on who is a local admin user on your device. And this will actually write into a NinjaOne custom field. And so custom fields in NinjaOne look like this. It's a great way for you to store data. Environment again. Let's go here. And so here we have our custom fields, and they're exactly what they sound like. It's a couple different types of data fields, and then you can put whatever information you want in there. And this could be information populated from the API, but they can also be populated from a script. And so here I can see my uptime statistics. Here's the recent boot events for this device, and I can see how long the device has been on historically. And I can see that the uptime percentage has been 100%. So, hey, it's good to know that this device is normally online. It's not offline a lot. And if we go down a little bit further, you will see the local admins check that I showed earlier. And so this will actually write every local administrator into this custom field here, where we can then monitor for it. And so if you have a list of all your local administrators, you can put that into a custom field at the organization level. And it's the same concept as the Wi-Fi example that we saw earlier. You're checking for who is a local administrator on a device. You're comparing that against who is an authorized administrator. And then you're taking the discrepancy, unauthorized administrators, and writing them into a custom field where you can then go ahead and alert and remediate those particular users. Maybe you want to disable them. Maybe you want to delete them. You have a ton of flexibility there with ensuring that you have a visibility when there is a local administrator user who is not authorized. And obviously, I know the motion here is moving away from local admin, and that's the ideal, but I know that not everyone is going to have the ability to put that in place today. And so this is a nice method of a local user management in addition to whatever IDP that you might be using. Yes. So this will be included in the resources. I did a previous webinar on this, so all of the local admin check, I'll have a complete write-up of that in the resources that are is going to be sent out with the recording. Again, just go to the YouTube description, and there's going to be a link there that talks about every workflow that I'm talking about here today, all of these scripts that I'm using. Yeah, it'll be all collated for your usage.
Hey Jeff,
Yep.
well, I don't want to. You tell me. Is now a good? I've been keeping track, just FYI, everybody, of all the Q&A. I've kind of organized some things. I've been a busy little worker here in the background. And there's a few questions that are specifically around running scripts and the main topic of this webinar, right? Should I hit you with those now, or do you want me to wait a little bit?
Let's give it 5 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and get to questions in the last 10 minutes of the webinar.
Sounds good.
So that is our sort of first two categories there. We have the concept of a real basic response, so what are some tickets that come in all the time that are very basic? Let's alert on those and let's build some automatic remediations to fix them so that we don't have to address them ourselves. Then we have something that's more complex, where maybe we aren't able to fully automate it from end to end, but we're able to get at least part of the way there. And we're able to operate within a structure where maybe we're not going to be the first person to kick off the event or the first entity. We're going to be a wheel in the cog or a cog in the wheel. Uh, let's talk about our third example here, which is that we want to surface information to our technicians and make them more efficient. So if we go back into policies here, what's a very common example that we run into all the time? It's low disk space. And so here, somebody calls up and says, my computer is low on disk space. I ran into this all the time back in the day. And so what are the usual things that you would do here? You might delete temporary files and you might empty the recycle bin. And so this is basic examples, but there's a half-life on these. You can really only delete temporary files or empty the recycle bin so many times before it ceases to be effective. And so one of the things that I like to do is, again, send a message to the end user. And so here I can say, hey, you're low on disk space. You may not realize it, but you need to start deleting some files so that your device is going to continue to operate effectively. And so this takes it from being something where you're trying to essentially guess what is being done, and you're putting the onus back onto the end user. It's their device. They should know where the files are, and they should be able to delete them. However, that's not always the case. You may need to, be more involved in the process. And they may say, "Well, I don't know what I can delete." So what you can do here is add in another script, and this is going to be the tree size script. This is again something that we will have in our compendium, our primer of all of our scripts and workflows that we're going to send out. And so what this is going to do is take all of our files, actually, I think it's our folders. It's going to show us where the folders that consume the most space are located. And so if we have an issue where there's low disk space, we go to the device and we're able to look at this custom field right here. And right here, I can see where what's taking up the space. Okay, 32 gigs in the C drive, 19 gigs in Windows, program files, 5 gigs. And so I can see which folders are consuming the most space, when the last write time was, when the creation time was. And so otherwise, what are my options here? I might have to remote into the device. I might have to install a utility like Windows WinDearStat. I might have to then let that scan so that I can go ahead and evaluate where the files and the folders are that are taking up space. Versus this, you're able to actually automate it and be more proactive so that when you come to the device, you have the information at your fingertips so that you're able to try and start solving the issue rather than having to go and do your information collection after you hear about the issue. And then who knows how long later, then you get started on actually being engaged in fixing the issue. And so another good example of this would be the system performance check. If somebody is having an issue, you can have this be an automation accessible in the systray. And so whenever they run this themselves, you're getting a snapshot of the device at the time that the user reported an issue. And so if we go down here, we see CPU used, we see memory used, we see top processes consuming CPU and memory, network usage, disk usage, and so what we can do is go into the systray right here under the general section, go into systray, and you can see here I've built out a whole menu tree of options accessible to my end users. And you can see here I've added in an automation to run that system performance check. And you can see I can give them a little notification message as well if I wanted to, give them some sort of insight or let them know that something was going to be happening. Uh, one more minute, then we can go ahead and get to your questions. I did want to talk about a couple examples that I have used in the past. One is using the custom SNMP functionality of NMS to monitor network devices where the temperature reading is excessively high. As many of you may know, because I won't shut up about it, is I used to work for a movie theater chain. That's where a lot of my endpoint management experience comes from, and projectors are very, very hot. There's a xenon bulb inside of them, and so you need to take that heat and you need to exhaust it away from the projector. Otherwise, the projector will overheat and shut down as a safety mechanism. And so you already have the ability to monitor for when you're approaching a critical temperature for that device. However, what about alerting whenever the device's temperature is slowly rising? And so here you can see we have the temperature sensor reading here. Whenever the exhaust fans would break, the projector would get slowly hotter. And so what I can do is go into my NMS policies here and go into my conditions. Let's make sure I have one. Yes, I do. And I can set up a condition here to monitor for my custom SNMP. I will monitor for my temperature sensor here. And so I can say whenever my temperature has been greater than a certain threshold for X number of minutes, that lets me know that I have a device that's starting to slowly elevate its temperature, and I need to look at it before we trigger the max temperature sensor reading and the device shuts down because it's overheating. So this is much preferable. Try to figure out what's happening before you're going to have that sort of critical device shut off because it's overheating. We've got plenty of options here to alert on that and know when that temperature is starting to rise. Uh, Another good example here that I did want to cover is time drift. So movie theaters, movies got to start on time. I lived in fear of the start and end of daylight savings time. And so this is a great way to alleviate that. Monitor for time drift relative to an NTP server. And so what you can do here is run this on your devices, compare it to time.windows.com, and whenever your uh, uh, time is drifting. You can see here 120 seconds, I believe, is what the default is. Um, then we're going to go ahead and alert that, hey, your time isn't what you would expect. So I definitely saw that somebody, I think, had that maybe in our poll there, Jonathan. But yeah, very glad that we have a pre-baked script for you in the template library that'll help you track the time difference for your devices. And if you want to go ahead and feed me some questions, Jonathan, I will try to do this as quickly as possible.
Oh man, speedrun. Let's do it. You're always good at the speedruns.
You know I love a speed run.
I know you do. Okay, thank you everybody for all the amazing questions here. And so there's a few different categories. One is patching. I'm going to save those to the end. There's always questions about patching. Instead, we're going to start off with the ones that are related specifically to monitoring and alerting. So here's one, Jeff from David Harlow. When we do a condition and have it create a ticket, but also run an automation, if the automation resolves the condition, will it create the ticket still?
So the ticket gets created at the time the alert is triggered. So if we go and we look at a policy here, the process, if you're creating a ticket, is really a four-step process. Step one is identifying the issue. Step two would then be creating the ticket. Step three is then the automated response. And then step four would be identifying if that response actually worked. So you're not able to have the automation run pre-ticket creation. The alert has to trigger, then the automation, or the alert has to trigger, the ticket gets created, the automation runs, and then we recognize and reset everything. So yeah, you do have to have that ticket created, have the automation run, and then we reset it. There's no way to have the automation run without the creation of the ticket. A possible workaround here is you create two conditions with a time delay so that your automated remediation runs first, and then like 10 minutes later, if that hasn't worked yet, hey, let's go ahead and raise a ticket. This is still a big problem.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So again, with result conditions. So Brent asked this question: does the script result condition clog up the activity log with every script being run?
That is a great question. It does not. The The script result condition is only going to show in the activity feed when it triggers because the condition has triggered. But for example, if we go down here and I look at my Windows Update Service script, even though this is running here it's running every hour, I'm not going to see a script execution every single hour when you're using script result condition. Now, you would absolutely see it if you were using a scheduled automation. But script result condition, that's a great way to update custom fields and have automations run in the background without having it clog up the activities feed.
Awesome. Joel says he has a silly question, but there's no silly questions, or maybe there are, I don't know, but this isn't one of them. How do I view the results of the performance check script?
Yeah, so the system performance check would write into a custom field. And so right here, I've created a system performance check custom field. Just to review how you do that, you would go to devices, you'd go to global custom fields or role-based custom fields, depending on your preference. We'll go into global here. We would create a WYSIWYG custom field right there. So we'll go ahead and say we want to create a WYSIWYG custom field. We want to go ahead and name this system performance check. You want to make this a device level definition scope like so. And then you can set your permissions here. I would make this read only for the technician. Why should they be able to edit that since it's automated? And then I will make this, we'll make it both read and write for automations. And then for API, I would make this read only so that way the results can at least be parsed, but the API should not be the source of truth. The device and the automation, that should be the source of truth for this custom field. And so I would complete that. And then I can go and import that system performance check from the template library, specify the custom field name that I just created. Keep in mind that the name is case sensitive. So in this case, I'd have to have the uppercase P and the uppercase C in system performance check for that to work. And then you want to run that. You can execute that on a scheduled basis. You can execute that on a manual basis, either technician initiated from NinjaOne or from the systray, and any combination of. So you could have this run on a recurring basis, on a manual basis, at the same time, and you're not going to have any issue there. Just keep in mind that you're only going to see the most recent result in the custom field.
Awesome. Okay, let's keep it going. So Larry has this question. Is there a way to turn off notifications for low disk space for devices we know about and don't want to report on?
Absolutely. So we mentioned this earlier that you can make device level overrides. So we can see here we have our policy. Right here we can see 309 devices on this particular policy. Maybe I want to make a change to just one of them. And so we'll go into this device right here. I'll go into my device settings. I'll go down to my policy overrides and I'll click on edit. And this lets me make device level exceptions. And so I can come down here and say, well, low disk space, don't care on that. We'll go ahead and just uncheck it. That means it won't ever fire on this device. You can also tweak the threshold. So if we click into the condition itself, we can go ahead and say, well, hey, maybe this is a little high. I'm getting false positives here. Let's drop this down to 5%. That'll take out some of the noise. And there you can see on the right-hand side, it's still overridden to where this is an exception to your overall policy settings. And we can hover over that overridden, hit revert, and then be back in compliance with our parent policy if we want to go that route. So I'd say that's going to be the best method for you today.
Awesome. We'll hit one more question and just letting everybody know, I've marked a bunch. There's a lot of questions about, hey, can I get more information about specific products or features from Ninja, including the help desk, documentation, vulnerability remediation was a big one. I've written all of your names down and that's my to-do list. I'll team up with JP, who's in the background here, and we'll make sure that we reach out to your account managers and we get you information around that. Integrations, Rapid7. Larry, I see that question too. Okay, so just to let you know, we're not gonna, you won't be forgotten. We're gonna get you. And Dan, okay, got you too. Lots of questions, lots of interest in the vulnerability. We've done some webinars recently too. Jeff, I'm sure has been running some of those, and so we can give you some links there too. Okay, so for another question here, so compound checks. Is it possible to set, or compound conditions? Is it possible to set a compound condition to run a different script according to the result of a script result condition? For example, if the result is 1, run the script. If it is 2, run another script.
So you can't do that directly. What you could potentially do here with the script result condition is you could write the exit code into a custom field, and then your response script would have the variations for the different exit codes built into that. And so if you check the custom field and the exit code was 1 versus 2 versus 3, you could essentially have a switch command in PowerShell that would alternate between whatever your remediation is going to be. So it's not going to be, you know, I think directly what you're looking for, but there is a way to have essentially different remediations run by using the custom fields as a logic switch. It's a little bit more complex to go over than in the time that we have left. But if you want to email me, I'll try to talk it out.
Thanks so much, Jeff. And thank you, everybody. Okay, so we have a prize winner to announce. JP. Oh, look at that drum roll, please. Let's see who our winner is going to be. Thank you. Thanks, Dan, and thanks everybody. Thank you, Jeff. Always a wealth of information. Always amazing how quickly you're able to go through things. So much that we couldn't get into, right? As always. But lots of great questions. We do have the chat transcript, as Jeff pointed out. This recording will be available on YouTube. You'll get an email. I did note for a couple people who aren't getting those emails. We'll figure that out. And you'll have a link to the recording along with the things that links to resources that Jeff has covered. And we'll be following up on some of the questions we didn't get to. Okay, so let's see. JP has announced that our prize winner is, and forgive me if I mispronounce this, Leandro Niveloso. So congratulations to you. Mazel, mazel indeed. Congratulations. You are the winner of the relaxation kit to help you defeat IT misery. Hopefully, everybody found some value in this webinar. You got some tips that you'll be able to put to use right away. Reduce some of the misery that some of these complex, these fires and mundane tasks put in your way. We'll be back next month. I believe it's May 27th, JP told me. Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong there. And we'll be talking about endpoint security, which is a topic that we cover a lot. It's always front of mind. We'll be going over, Jeff will be sharing some tips on how to streamline some of those workflows. And before that, just a couple of shout outs. We have the IT Leadership Lab. It's another community hub that we've set up from NinjaOne. It's not NinjaOne specific. We don't talk about the product or sell anything. It's more about helping newer IT managers and leaders pick up the soft skills, right? The leadership skills that maybe they haven't got management training for. So we do a ton of streams around that. We've got one tomorrow about what to do when you inherit a messy IT environment. So we can drop a link to that. John is saying, giving a good shout out for it. Thanks, John. And then on Wednesday, we have Backups and Bandwidth. It's our IT tabletop series where basically it's inspired by D&D, and we have different dungeon masters who are putting together real IT scenarios. Wednesdays is all going to be around desktop troubleshooting, and we have some unlucky or lucky players who will be able to go through and try to troubleshoot live. It's a lot of fun. It's going to be on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's available on YouTube. If you go under live and see that, you'll be able to stream. You don't have to register for it. So please do check those things out. And thank you, everybody, once again. Jeff, thank you. And I'm sure we'll see your face again very soon.
As always. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Take care, everybody.